Welcome back. Man, this has been a wild week. We've got War Within beta, massive remix changes, a lot of very frustrated remix players, and an Orgrimmar revamp tease, and other things like a new human racial. It's all quite a lot, just a taste of what's in today's news. So with that said, let's roll. The War Within beta is going live June 5th, and Blizzard revealed this in a post that contains this absolutely gorgeous key art that for some reason reminds me of like a cropped composition of the Captain EO poster. Well, I mean, without the funny little dude to the right. But anyway, they also said that pre-ordering the digital Epic Edition gives you instant beta access, which, well, the instant bit is new, right? Getting beta access was always part of the deal. It being instant is different. And I do get them doing this from the business side, but I will at least say this. Seriously, do not buy the edition for this, right? Don't buy it for beta access. Like, unless you actually really, really want to test and that's what you enjoy, then sure. By all means, but otherwise, don't touch it. An expansion is best played just going in, launch day, playing it normal. Now, there have still been a few quibbles with this because, of course, of the physical edition, and it's the usual thing that Blizzard has got with their physical collector's edition every goddamn time where, yeah, I mean, you obviously, if you've got the physical Epic edition, then you don't get this. Now, it wasn't actually mentioned as a thing that you would get with the physical edition, so they're technically in the clear, but, yeah. Kind of unfortunate. And Blizzard, seriously, why the hell? Well, especially when it's done via the Blizzard Gear Store, do you not just, like, email people the code or have some way to upgrade their accounts, right? Like, oh, man, I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me. With that said, though, let's have a chat about the War Within and the new things in the build. So, this week we've got a new alpha build and there has been a lot of stuff. We have many different class changes, we have UI features that are real nice and some other things. I'll kick it off with Delves. So Delves have got a nice new UI for when you enter them, and this area in Dornegal has got a book thing that will tell you when the season starts. That's of course a relevant thing because tiers 4 and beyond are going to be seasonal, because of course they actually have got good loot. Also, last week's build had this quest from Faerun, where basically you get to choose what you want to do, and if you do whatever that objective is, you'll get a Delve treasure key. Now, those are the keys that you need to actually unlock the resplendent chests that are at the end of the delves. Essentially, you can do delves for regular repeated rewards as much as you want to your heart's content, but for the more powerful sort of weekly lockout style stuff, that is going to be behind these resplendent chests. And I suppose the way they're doing it here is pretty good, where maybe as a Mythic Pluser or a Raider, I won't have to do a bunch of world content in order to get a key. So I definitely appreciate the player choice there. GG. Of course, we'll still have to see how the rest of the system pans out. Anyway, let's move on to the world map, which has got so much better. It really has. They've added in a whole bunch of different filters. These are for things like quest objectives, skywriting races, dungeon entrances, pet battles, so a bunch of things you may just not want to see, trivial quests, and the big one, warband completed quests, as well as tracked items. And it's those warband completed quests that really matter. It just means that our alts are going to have a far less, I don't know, dementia-inducing map experience than they did whenever they logged into Valdrakken, so that's real good. And also, there's a new home city icon that looks more like a castle, and if I were to don the tinfoil, I would totally say that this is them freeing up the home icon for use in player housing, obviously, which is a feature in Midnight. Yes, but come on. Fingers crossed, we can hope. Next then, let's talk rewards. Season 1 Keystone Master gives us this lovely diamond mech suit that thankfully can fly, but the big question is, will, for every other season, we just get another tint of the damn thing? Because I really think they gotta make that better, especially in a world where Raiders often get some really, really cool mounts. I mean, just look at some of the transformations we got in Dragonflight, while our Mythic Plus friends got, I mean, they're pretty cool Kodo-looking dudes, but yeah, come on. Anyway, somewhat related to that, Blizzard are continuing the, I think, pretty successful season mastery achievements that you can complete pretty early on in a season to get you a bit of heroic grade tier in return for any of 2,000 Mythic Plus rating, 1,600 PvP, or Heroic and Surrec. And I suppose what's a little different this time is 1,600 PvP is something I might actually hit, because solo queue RPGs are going to be a thing, and that actually sounds like content I could really enjoy. Anyway, to zoom out a bit, it basically does seem the Blizzard have settled in on pretty much the gearing system as it is on live as what WoW's gear is going to be. Or should I say, what it was in Season 3. Obviously, Season 4 things like the Bronze Bullion, those are not going to be a thing. Next, then, it turns out the diplomacy is also dead in Azeroth because the old human racial that used to give you a 10% boost to your reputation is gone, right? They're removing that, and basically they're doing that because, when they start putting player power on renown tracks, and where that's basically like a pretty major part of the gameplay experience for a lot of people, it basically seems weird that one of the races just gets to be 10% faster. Right? Most racials, of course, are not getting you faster progress on a week-to-week basis, so that's why they're getting rid of it. And the replacement, called No Place Like Home, is entirely progress unrelated. In a way, it's neat. Like, what you get is a 5-minute faster Hearthstone cooldown, and also a second charge in your Hearthstone. Now, that is handy, but a second charge in your Hearthstone? I mean, I can't really think of a recent time where I would have needed to use my Hearthstone like twice in a row. So, I don't know, maybe a bit of iteration, maybe there's a way to spice it up. But let's be real, a 10% boost to all wrap, like, that was always so good that losing it anyway was just going to feel bad. Ultimately, though, we can see how it makes sense in the modern game. Next on classes. Right, there is a lot to cover with classes, and I'll do this fairly quickly. Be on the lookout, we've got a far larger video diving into just a very big picture of all the classes next week. Anyway, to summarize things, Blood DKs have got a talent tree pass that mostly involved reducing the number of 2-point nodes and then also changing up some of the pathing. Again, like we've seen in so many, the idea is to open up more build flexibility. Affliction and Destro Warlocks are also getting a bit of a similar treatment, with Dimensional Rift actually going to the center of the tree, and then Infernal making its way back down to the bottom where it used to be for Destro. And then for Affliction, they're getting tweaks to increase the options they've got from the middle of their tree, and also some more upfront damage to Haunt, as well as an improved Haunt talent, basically just to make Haunt feel better. Next then, Mages are kind of interesting. We have a new alternative to the new Time Anomaly. So the new Time Anomaly is this wacky RNG talent that at any time gives you a chance to proc some sort of spec-related buff. As an example for fire, that would be 5 seconds of combustion, a fire blast charge, or 6 seconds of time warp, right? So pretty neat. Now, they've tweaked Frost's version to swap Fingers of Frost over to Brain Freeze, so it's a little bit more powerful. And essentially the way that this plays out for some people, right, is that it's a fun, reactive thing to play around. If you do a good job and maybe you just get good rolls, then yeah, you get a good parse. Now, for some people, that's, oh, bing bong, fun numbers, yay. For a lot of other people, though, that is, oh my god, zero integrity, RNG, you know, we're thinking about Preach and his big bag of dice, and it's not going to be a fun time. So to sort of make up for that, what they've done is they've made a Choice Note talent that is a 3% buff to Arcane Intellect for the Mage, and the idea seems that they will be similarly powerful across a large number of pulls, right, like law of averages, but maybe with some good luck on a pull and some nice timing, Anomaly, yeah, that could be better. So it's that sort of thing where I like the texture of this. Look, it's a cool little identity, texture, a bit of flow. I think that's kind of fun. I'd almost say, objectively speaking, outside of World of Warcraft, right? Like as a reactive thing. But then, like in a raid, if I can do the same damage on average with far less complexity, I'm always going to pick that button, right? So it's that kind of thing where making fun talents for an MMO is basically hell compared to just making totally busted, wacky, fun bullshit for an ARPG. Anyway, to finish us off, they've done a pass on hero talents. The Oracle Priest has had a large wave of changes. Druid of the Claw is being tweaked so that it basically has got more even value across the various different gameplay scenarios it's going to find itself in, because multiple specs and multiple builds. And then the Aldrachi Reaver DH is having its rather stressful, tight, high-frequency buff windows being looked at, and Spellslinger is being tweaked to be a little bit more involved, and they've also removed Charring Embers for fire mages. So that's those changes. There are more in the patch notes, and we have a larger video planned in this stuff, probably for next week. So let's get into the drama, and let's talk about MoP Remix, because it's been a very, very silly week. Oh man, where to even begin in this one? So, if you want to level fast, and if you want to know how to get more spools, I've got good news. We released 2 guide videos this week. That bit was actually really fun to do, mostly because, well, those were guides just about kind of doing things. They weren't really dealing with bronze for upgrades, because that is where so much of the drama has been this week. So here's the big one. It came in the form of a tweet. Quote, "Players can purchase gear upgrades without worry that upgrade prices will be reduced later." Blizzard tweeted that, and then in the linked blog post, we basically learned why they are not going to be changing those upgrade costs. Now, their reasoning is they've seen many people upgrade many items so they can do heroic raids, which of course drop lots of bronze, and they then highlighted that the power increases that come along with a higher item level are basically, there's something that scales exponentially, not linearly. So the more you upgrade, you really do get more powerful. And absolutely, like an eye level 556 character is absolutely busted and completely insane levels of power, which is really fun. Now, the final thing they say is they don't want people to end up like second guessing their decision to become more powerful. The idea that you invest a whole bunch of bronze in upgrades and then Blizzard nerfs the upgrades and then you feel shit. Now, this angered a lot of people, right? And I think a lot of this is just about expectation, because many, perhaps most, are seeing this as a time-limited event, so you're kind of thinking fun first, not serious, rewarding, not a giga grind, right? People love the idea of being busted powerful in a way that reminds you of a late season ARPG character that's nearly completely broken. But of course, because this is an event, the expectation, I think, is more that getting there on a single character won't take a long time, because maybe people want to do that on a few different characters. Here, of course, it takes a long time, and I mean, hell, this actually got into the mainstream, like PC Gamer, at least just before I sat down to record this, it was actually in a featured spot of their homepage, right? They had an article saying, well, the headline, "Players are up in arms after the team refuses to budge on the whopping 577,950 bronze cost to fully upgrade your gear." So, yeah, I guess let me know if you've been whopped down in the comments. Anyway, what's the disconnect here? Because as I see it, the team clearly thinks that this is a 3-month long event, right? That's almost half of a season. And it seems to me that their intent is that you can play this as like your main form of endgame World of Warcraft if that's what you want to do through that span of time, hence the big bronze costs. Like, that does appear to be the tuning from what I can see, but I think that is not really how a lot of people see this. And looking for player opinion, right? Like trying to find people who have got very kitted out characters, well, the endgame people actually seem to want changes. They seem to want the upgrade costs to go down, right? And of course that can make sense. Maybe they want to play in alts as well. But basically, the people who have like ascended the mountain and got to the top have turned around and said, that's a load of bollocks, that's way too much. Blizzard, please make it smaller, right? Please make it smaller for the other people. So like, shit, it does seem that the whole world is saying, Blizzard, you're wrong. And Blizzard are seemingly saying, no, we're not. This is the intent. Okay, let's talk about some changes. So, Blizzard, and this is funny, it's a bit of a comedy like most remix things have ended up being. Blizzard tried to change the scaling, right, to sort of smooth out the jumps in difficulty between different raids. They were doing this via sliding scaling based on player item level and raid difficulty, and of course players immediately broke it. They immediately broke it by just taking off their jewelry and that sort of thing to tank their item level so they could be at a good breakpoint, and this was quickly known as the 369 cheese. What a shit show. One that, of course, like, yeah, it's a cheese, but what it leads to is group finder groups now having a maximum item level limitation because you want to have that delicious broken scaling. Now, per Wowheads reporting, what Blizzard have done is that they have applied and then removed a 20% buff to the heroic raids, but the 369 cheese is apparently still working. Now, the changes don't stop there. There are other things, like as an example, the Gulp Frog people. So if you're Gulp Frogging at all, you will not have been eligible on that character for the 40k bronze you get for hitting level 70. Characters, of course, that did a lot of Gulp Frog farming, they have had their power stripped back, basically to what Blizzard said is a reasonable amount for a very engaged player to achieve. Now, in a way that is fair enough. They did go on to say that the impact of the reduction is larger for the people who, quote, took advantage of the situation for longer. That's kind of tricky, because a bit of me hears that and says, took advantage of the situation. Like, that sounds a little antagonistic, and hey, those were just mobs that were dropping charms in your game. You hold the bag, it's your fault. And you then sort of think like, well, okay, how about you inform us that it is a situation earlier so we know not to take advantage for longer. But then that does lead into a communications problem, because if Blizzard tweets that and Wowhead makes a post about it, and maybe I mention it in a video or whatever, some people will know. But a lot of other people will not know. And then you'd have a problem where the people who would end up being the most targeted would also be the people who would be the least plugged in to the sort of online commentary. A little bit of a strange thing, and the side part of that is the application of this does seem to have been messy. I have seen many conflicting reports, people only touching a few gulp frogs and then not being eligible for the gold. Some people saying they did gulp frogs for like an hour, maybe 2 hours, and they were able to loot the gold. I don't really know. It's sort of tricky when you do a very large thing to very many accounts. I mean, obviously there's going to be some false positives or issues. So, tricky. It is what it is. And I think, again, as I said earlier, red team testing is what they need here. Like red teaming is, I think, more of a software thing. It's basically like more adversarial testing. The idea that your testers are trying to break and exploit the game. I think if that was going on, like, this probably wouldn't have happened. I mean, look, there are farms that I've seen on YouTube that I remember doing back in Mists of Pandaria. So I think big picture, adversarial testing that has got player incentives in mind is absolutely the thing that needs to happen more if events like this are to continue. And of course, I do want them to continue because fundamentally, I think it's really cool. Now, beyond this, there of course have been more things. Numerous hyperspawn farms have been nerfed. Basically, if they appear, they will be fixed very soon. And they've also rebalanced some outlier gems like Slayer and the big ward that everyone was talking about. And the thing is, those nerfs are fair, and the hyperspawns, to some people, that's a nerf that's destroying their gameplay. And they feel like they need the hyperspawn farm because we live in a world where Blizzard does not want to take the bronze upgrade cost down for gear. Of course, from Blizzard's perspective, they don't want the optimal way to play their game being just killing goats in one place for 10 hours straight, because that's obviously a awful design and a bad, unsustainable way for your game to be. And this is where we run into a problem that the developers of Diablo 4 had, where basically launch happens and you find yourself playing just whack-a-mole with problems. You are identifying problems, you're fixing problems, you're just trying to do that. But the problem is, some of those problems, I know I'm saying problem a lot, but some of them actually lead to players advancing quicker. So your fix to the problem ends up feeling like a nerf, because it kind of is a nerf. And to the players, that will feel bad. And they will basically feel like they're being nerfed and nerfed and nerfed and nerfed, but they're not really getting anything to compensate. And again, this is a world where top-end remixers with 556 characters appear to be almost unanimous in thinking that the upgrades are basically bullshit expensive. And of course, it's not like those players would have a better time in alts, because here, the upgrade cost reductions are not account-wide. It's just, they need to fix things up, and I don't really know what to do, but maybe a good move would be putting a large one-time bonus on clearing like major milestones for the first time. I mean, ideally, you would have just done this via achievements. And maybe the achievement for a normal raid boss or a heroic raid boss would give you a lot of bronze, and that would sort of make sense at endgame, right? If you make those endgame specific. But obviously, the achievement ship sailed a long time ago, so I don't really know. Maybe you make it so normal and heroic bosses drop like a one-time quest item worth a lot of bronze? But again, if you buff how people get bronze, that is in a way a little bit of a stealth nerf to the amount of work that, that it takes to get those upgrades, and then that would go against the philosophy that Blizzard tweeted and made their blog post about. Basically meaning, this is kind of hard, we live in hell, and maybe using bronze for both our cosmetic rewards and our upgrades was not the move. So look, do let me know what you think here. I'll say personally, I kind of hate how this has went. I really hate that this just feels like snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. I mean, at least for a lot of players it does. Like, personally, I have just been playing, leveling an altar 2, mostly chill, all happy and fine. But for the people who really wanted to take what Blizzard were offering them with MoP Remix and run with it, it does seem like, by and large, there are a lot of negative experiences. The intended way to play this is definitely not to be going around chasing hyperspawn farms that are extremely boring. But that's what people have ended up feeling like they've got to do because of the way the bronze is balanced. And ultimately, that is going to have led to negative buzz. That negative buzz is kind of unignorable. So I guess, I don't know, tell me what your experience has been down below. I want to understand what the impact on players has been. So if you've enjoyed this, absolutely tell me. If you haven't, tell me. Let's try to end things on a more fun note, though. So, some Earthen have moved into our home cities, including this fella. He's got dialogue, and man, that dialogue, it is clearly Blizzard looking at the players and giving us a wink. Okay, let me give you the quote. Either way, we've been talking about Orgrimmar's scattered forges, and for a city as fortified as this, we're both a bit surprised at the lack of dedicated industrial forge grounds. It's just the thing a canyon city like this is missing, wouldn't you agree? Seaside coolant systems, cliff-carved quarries, a port for trade even. The opportunities to expand are endless. That is what our little dwarf earthen friend says. And look, let's be real. Orgrimmar's a bit of a hole. It is a bit of a hole. I mean, those kind of scrappy, we're trying, we got a lot of heart, those original vibes, those died whenever Garrosh made it, like, spiky and ugly and warlike. And it's just kind of languished since then. You know, with all sorts of, I mean, depending on what time of day it is, maybe you have a different war chief spawn in, who knows? It is a total mess of a city. A full revamp would be incredible, and I think this dialogue is Blizzard giving us a bit of a wink and a nod. That being said, I wonder how you'd even fit this in. Like, Khazalgar is pretty close to Kalimdor, but it's hard to see Orgrimmar being hyper-involved in the story unless maybe we get surprised. Like, 10.0 does see, of course, the Nerubian Queen be defeated. From there, we really don't know what's next, right? Like, is it an Arathi showdown? I mean, probably not. That would be too quick. They've only just been introduced. We've got no idea how we'll actually draw Xal'atath out, fight her, stop her larger plan. I will say that some data mining has pointed people towards the idea of a goblin raid, sort of suggesting perhaps Undermine as a zone. That's a place that people have wanted to go to for, like, decades. Also, there are some Venture Co. goblins down there in Ashkahet somehow. Two other expansions, Midnight is all Quel'Thalas, and the last Titan is Northrend, which could be an opportunity because giving Orgrimmar a proper harbor would be kind of cute timing because, of course, Wrath of the Lich King came with the Stormwind Harbor as one of its big cool things that we all logged into on pre-patch before we got eaten by zombies. Now, of course, this is the modern team, and they are capable of cooking. They have a lot of resources, so who the hell knows? Some sort of Orgrimmar revamp could be a 0.5 patch. And if it was, it would actually be heading off a big player criticism, or at least, I don't want to say criticism, I mean the ship hasn't sailed yet, but there are a lot of people saying the War Within is an alliance expansion. And yeah, Thrall's there. He's not heavily involved though. So, if you have a bit of a criticism that there's a lot of alliance stuff, and we are coming off the back of the Orc Heritage Armor quest, which is absolutely terrific, then having some sort of narrative about a rebuilding and a fixing up of Orgrimmar, I mean, that actually would be a 0.5 patch that would properly get some headlines, drum up some hype, and get people excited. And as for what's next, well, we are cooking up a lot of things for next week. Till then, though, you can check out how you can make use of the War Within's new account-wide currency system in a video we released yesterday. It's actually pretty damn good, and you can literally do things to benefit your situation today, and maybe get yourself that Priestess's Moonsaber. So, you can check that video out by clicking the card that will soon replace my face, and with that said, I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.